The season premiere of season 2 of I Am Cait just aired, and Caitlyn Jenner has some very strong criticisms for Hillary Clinton and how she believes that she would not do enough for the trans community. So let me give you some of the quotes, and keep in mind that the context of this discussion is on a bus. She's with her trans friends. They're discussing politics, and one of them is challenging Caitlyn on the fact that she's a Republican. And here's what Caitlyn Jenner has to say about it. It's the last place I want to be, but I'm open. We need both sides, and if we're unfortunate enough to get Hillary as our next president, we need her on our side, although she won't be. She couldn't care less about women, which is an incredible criticism considering the fact that right now, on the Democratic side, all the criticism toward Bernie is framed with, he's not as successful in getting things done for women as Hillary is. Anyway, here's another thing Caitlyn Jenner said about Hillary. She cares about herself, which is kind of a true statement.
Okay, so this is outrageous on both sides.
Yeah.
It's crazy to say Bernie Sanders is sexist or his supporters are sexist, and that's what motivates them to be for the most liberal senator in the country.
Yeah.
Preposterous. On the other hand, it's insane to say Hillary Clinton doesn't care about women. Okay, if you say she cares about herself, yes. She's a politician. That's what most people care about if they're politicians. That's what most people care about, period, right? Mm-hmm. But politicians are particularly self-centered. But the whole idea that Hillary Clinton's going to be bad for women coming from Caitlyn Jenner, who thinks that Ted Cruz is the best candidate.
Ugh. You think Ted Cruz cares about you? No, but that's the thing. I think that she's so misinformed about these issues that she might actually think that Ted Cruz will look out for her in the end.
Well,
go ahead.
Trans people are people. Trans people can be really unwise about politics.
Yeah, and look, she's unwise about politics, but she also comes from the perspective of a privileged white guy who has now transitioned into a woman, right? And she does not know what it's like for the vast majority of transgender people, coping with these politicians that don't want to give them rights, that talk about them as if they're animals trying to sneak into the wrong bathroom, which Ted Cruz has done.
Trying to get a job, trying to rent an apartment.
Right.
Those are things that when for decades you've been rich and well-connected, you haven't had to deal with directly. Doesn't mean you haven't spoken to people about it, but you haven't lived that life.
It's unlikely that Caitlyn Jenner is going to have issues with housing discrimination.
I would assume so.
Yeah.
Right. So let me give you a little more. Also understand that Caitlyn Jenner is fabulously wealthy and she wants to protect her wealth, right? And so I think that's what the appeal of the Republican Party is for her. Also, she is religious, which is crazy. But anyway, here's another thing she said. We're $18.5 trillion in debt. I think what they don't realize is this country could collapse over this at some point. And if our country collapses, it doesn't make any difference if you're gay, trans, or whatever. So she thinks that Republicans would be better with this debt that we have, which is hilarious. And then also she says, Republicans and the conservatives are not these horrible people out there trying to oppress people. I don't feel like they're out to get us. Every conservative guy out there believes in everybody's rights, which is why they didn't want same-sex couples to get married and, things like that.
Yeah, and are you going to talk about the Houston stuff?
Go ahead. No, you can do it.
So she was presented with evidence that it was conservative groups and Republican politicians who stopped the Houston law protecting gay and transgender LGBT individuals from discrimination, refused to accept it. Said, I can't say if the governor of Texas is a Republican or a Democrat. Well, you don't have to. He's a Republican. It doesn't matter what you think. Was given a newspaper. No, this shows that the group is against. Nope, I refuse to accept that. And I was wondering, so I don't, the Daily Caller, I don't read the Daily Caller.
No one should.
Conservative organization,
yeah,
right?
That was the first article. That's from the...
Yeah, so we have a couple of articles talking about this story. So conservatives, every conservative just wants everybody to have rights, according to Caitlyn Jenner. But I noticed this. After Jenner's friends criticized him for his conservative views, he said Republicans just had to...
Yep.
Yeah, only the conservative organization writing about your thing insisted on using the he, him pronouns. But they just want everybody to have rights. They don't have anything against LGBT individuals.
Look, for most of her life, internally, she identified as a woman. That's what she tells us, and that's obviously what she acted based on, so I completely believe her on that. But the outside world didn't know that. So they reacted to her based on her outward appearance, which was rich, white, male Republican. So all these Republicans were great to her because they didn't know she was a her. They thought, oh, a star athlete, Republican, might donate to my campaign, and they were terrific to you. So she says, well, I don't know, all the Republicans I know are lovely. Yeah, that was back then, right? And so now, and she's still famous, so I don't think anybody comes and spits in her face. If they're a Republican politician, they probably still want her money, right? But denying the reality that Republican politicians all over the country are trying to take away your rights is, well, literally ignorant. So if I guess she's proud of her ignorance, we'll find out in the show, though I won't because I won't watch it, if this bus ride full of, across the country with other trans, folks turns her a little bit more reasonable and gets her to understand what they've had to go through their whole lives. But she's a Jenner / Kardashian, so I wouldn't count on it. More likely that she'll remain clueless in her world where, fabulously wealthy people think that the main thing that matters is tax cuts.
Yeah, well, they'd have to undo decades of conservative Republican programming.